Chicago Bears are up on the clock.
Easy. Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams, number
one. Lock it in.
We have in the past been accused of being long-winded.
Yes.
Generally,
yes.
But also specifically with regard to quarterbacks in mock drafts.
Uh-huh.
Last year, I think we spent about 30 to 35 minutes on Anthony Richardson. All right, start draft. We're going to go Caleb Williams, number 1, the USC quarterback. I think he's the clear guy at number 1.
I think so.
All right, the Bears are up on the clock at number 9. They've been linked to grabbing a receiver. They have DJ Moore. Just traded for Keenan Allen for a 4. Oh, man, I love that so much. I mean, look, I just want to compliment that move. Again, I know you're bringing in, bigger money and the whole thing, but they've had money.
But this is why I wrote about this. Like, having a lot of cap space is not about just getting to free agency and being able to fire money left, right, and center, right? It's about having the flexibility to take on the bad contracts that other teams have to get away from because they don't have any cap space, right?
Yeah.
This is... You can't. I mean, he was on the hook for like $34 million in cap hit for the Chargers this year, right? There's no way you can spin that to say that's a good contract to be taking on. But he's a really good player. So for some teams, they're looking at that and going, we have to get rid of one of our best players because he won't take a pay cut and we're stuck with this prohibitive salary cap number. Chicago is looking at that and going, he's a good player, and we have so much cap space we need to spend so we can take on a crappy contract for a year or two. Let's go grab him for a 4th-round pick. It's a steal. Now, the only downside is the contract, and the salary cap space that you've built up enables you to take on that kind of deal. So it's a great move, but that's why people look at this and say salary cap money is just for, salary cap space, it's only for going and spending crazy in free agency. It's about stuff like this.
Yes, and we talked about this before, right? If the draft is not as deep, Jim Nagy said that from the Senior Bowl. If the draft is not as deep, what's the best value of 4th, 5th, 6th rounders? Trading them for veterans, right? If you could trade them for starters, I think that's always a viable play. I think it's always a viable play to load up on draft capital to take shots in the draft, and also, if you have the cap space, to grab a veteran. So I love this move for Keenan Allen. Long story short, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Tyler Scott's there, but look, Rome Odunze is on the board here. They added Gerald Everett as another tight end to complement Cole Kmet. Love that as well. Rome Odunze's got my eyes wide here.
I would find it very hard to pass on Rome Odunze at this point. I understand you've got Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and Gerald Everett. Technically speaking, you're set, quote unquote, but Allen's not a long-term fix. He's 32. And even if he was, there's no way that the trio of Allen, Moore, and Odunze, particularly when one of them is cost control for a while, isn't just a phenomenal group to have around Caleb Williams. If you could trade out, sure. Again, you could go defense. I don't think I would pass on Odunze here.
I don't have the numbers in front of me. I was trying to look them up. But the argument against, the Bears definitely need more draft picks. It depends on how you look at it, right?
Yeah, they don't have a lot of...
Their 4th-round pick this year is Keenan Allen, right? I mean, that's one way of looking at it. The other part is, okay, we want to continue to accumulate picks and stay young, but they added a lot of picks last year. They were young last year.
Right now, they have pick number 1, Caleb Williams, pick number 9, what we're dealing with now, pick number 75, their 3rd rounder, and pick number 122, a 4th rounder. Now, to be fair, they're all in the right area of the draft. They stop having picks at the point where there stops being good players available.
Yeah.
So and as you said, one of their 4th-round picks is Keenan Allen. But I do think you would want to accumulate more picks if you could. On the other hand, I don't want to pass on Odunze.
I don't want to either. The only thing I was going to say, if you look historically, I still think they need a lot of defensive help, particularly on the defensive line.
Sure.
A huge Latu fan, huge Verse fan. Dallas Turner's there. If you're going to pick edge rushers, I can't pull up the numbers right now, but it's basically double the hit rate when you're talking about finding good players and finding starters, 1st round versus 2nd round for edge rushers. So the scarcity aspect comes out. And I do think there's consensus-wise, there's those 3 in the top 15. There's Chop Robinson, who, consensus has him at 26 right now. Grabbing one of those top edges, knowing it's harder to find those guys later. Receiver, we know how deep this draft is. So as good as Odunze is, you can get receivers in the 2nd, 3rd round. The hit rate on 2nd, 3rd round receivers much higher than edge.
Yes.
That's the argument, I think. If you're the Bears at 9, that's the argument for going defense here.
Sure. I would make the point that there are still edge rushers out there in the open market. Like, I would take a Dunze, and then there's going to be a bunch of guys that get signed after the draft once people understand. By that I mean NFL veteran free agents that get signed after the draft once teams have a better understanding of what they've been able to fill with the draft, right? Right now, Chase Young, Jadeveon Clowney, there are guys out there that can come in on a one-year deal for $10 million and fit your other starting edge rusher spot and put you in a good position. Yeah, I think you're right that if you actually need to hit the rookie, you probably need to take him at 9, but you don't need to hit the rookie this year.
All right, you want to go Rome Odunze?
I do.
All right, let's do it. Rome Odunze going to the Chicago Bears at 9.
Love it.
I mean, I think most Bears fans who aren't sitting there still crying about Justin Fields getting traded. There's a few of those, I guess. If you're a Bears fan, most of them are pretty excited about this.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams, add
How could you not be? I mean, that
to the mix with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen as your 3, like your possession slot.
Whether
with
or not
Odunze and Moore on the outside, yeah.
Whether or not Caleb Williams ends up working out, you can't accuse Chicago of repeating their Justin Fields mistakes in terms of setting him up for failure. Like, if they do this, they are building around Caleb Williams immediately.
And if you look at what Ryan Poles has done as GM there, we said, okay, what did the Bears do a couple years ago? Well, they had to get out of a bad cap situation, and they had no draft picks. Right. They were in a rough spot, and they added a ton of draft capital over the last couple of years, reset the salary cap, and went from position of weakness to a position of strength to everything that you said, the ability to bring Keenan Allen in for a 4th. So, yeah, that's why they were able to build around their next quarterback here in Caleb Williams, and now makes them much more competitive with the Odunze on the outside.
Mm-hmm.